I have the great honor of being joined by one of the two candidates for Wisconsin State Supreme Court. Again, we do have a primary for other races coming up next Tuesday, but the judges race, this justice race, is down to two. It'll be Crawford versus Brad Schimel, the aforementioned former Republican Attorney General of Wisconsin, coming up on April 1st. And the Liberal candidate, Judge Susan Crawford, joins us here from Dane County. Judge Crawford, thanks for taking a little time for us today. How are you?
I am great. Thanks for having me on. A little bit of a snowy day today.
It is, but people are taking it slow. So we got about a minute and a half here before the first break. You're going to keep on with us after the break. I appreciate that. Tell folks a little bit. I mean, Trygve and I know something about running races. I've been a failed assembly candidate twice, but tell people what led you to have the courage to put your name on the ballot to be a statewide candidate for Wisconsin State Supreme Court.
Yeah, thanks. This is just such an important race, and it is going to determine the future of our state in many ways and determine the fundamental rights and freedoms of all Wisconsinites. So for me, it was just about stepping up to make sure that we protect our Wisconsin Supreme Court from an extreme political agenda and make sure we've got fair and impartial decisions being made by a court that is looking to protect citizens' rights under our laws.
And Judge Crawford, you're joining us via phone, so that's why I'm giving you some cues here over the air. So we got literally 1 minute now. Tell us in 1 minute, if you can, what you feel is the one or two biggest issues for you in this race for Wisconsin State Supreme Court.
Yeah, thank you. I think it kind of boils down to who are voters going to trust with the safety of our communities, and who are they going to trust to protect their constitutional rights. My opponent in this race is somebody who has a record of working to take rights away from people. That includes failing to get over 6,000 sexual assault kits tested, leaving the victims, the children, women in those cases high and dry for 2 years while he failed to get those kits tested. He has been vocally opposed, adamantly opposed to reproductive health care rights for women, has also even gone so far as to try to take health care away from citizens.
Judge Crawford.
When he was Attorney General. Yeah.
No, I appreciate you. Judge Crawford, hold that thought for a second. We appreciate it. We'll come back with Judge Crawford on the other side. Stay with us. Trygve is going to stay through hour number two. Trygve Olson, Senior Advisor of the Lincoln Project, or at least into hour number two. We appreciate that, Trygve. Right now on a snowy Wednesday, we are joined via the phone by one of the two Supreme Court of Wisconsin candidates, Judge Susan Crawford, the Liberal candidate, on the phone with us. Judge, I appreciate you bearing with that the break there. We kind of cut you off. Was there anything that you wanted to finish up with, Judge Crawford, in terms of the things you really see in your mind are the most important issues of this race?
Yeah, and a minute goes by fast, Todd.
Right,
so,
I know.
The final thought I had is, do voters want to have a justice that they can count on to protect their rights under our Constitution and our laws, or do they want somebody who is pursuing an extreme partisan agenda? I have worked throughout my entire career, both as a prosecutor, then in private practice, and now as a judge, to protect people under our laws. I apply the law fairly and impartially. I keep an open mind in every case, and that's what I'll do on the Wisconsin Supreme Court.
Judge Crawford, I'm just a simple guy from Richland Center, but it seems to me that most people that I talk to around this state, I've traveled around the state with Trygve quite a bit over the last couple of years, they just want people who are going to get something done and who represents everyone. And when I look at your opponent, former Attorney General Brad Schimel, he was quoted on a conservative talk show recently as saying that he believed that the January 6th insurrectionists, we've talked about this guy from Wisconsin, from Pulaski, who sprayed cops with bear spray, never got a fair shot in court, unquote, and accused Democrats of abusing the court system for political gain. I just want your take on this, Judge Crawford, because it seems to me that protecting our communities and our state means requiring to stand up to people who are convicted of assaulting law enforcement officers in Wisconsin.
Yeah. Brad Schimel's support for violent criminals who have attacked law enforcement officers is just appalling. But it's kind of on par for, his extreme agenda. as I was saying before the break, he's got a record that includes letting 6,000 rape kits sit untested for 2 years. He's also got a record of letting people convicted of domestic violence walk without jail time. His priorities involve a pretty extreme right-wing agenda that he prioritizes even over the safety of our communities.
Yeah. Trygve?
Yeah, I would say, Judge Crawford, it's really nice to meet you, first off. I spent a lot of my life up until fairly recently running campaigns for people like Mitch McConnell. And I think listeners need to recognize, and people in Wisconsin need to recognize, this election is going to happen in a national environment 71 days after Donald Trump took office. And the same people it's a big race for Donald Trump. It's a nationalized race, whether people recognize that or not. The same people who ran Trump's campaign in Wisconsin at the most senior levels, ran Ron Johnson's campaign, are going to be running the campaign against you for Schimel. They have a pretty standardized playbook. And that playbook will be, and I'll just say, if I were running a campaign against you, I would find some obscure case that, really isn't a thing, with a immigrant who is a man playing women's sports, blah, 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 and try and make that the thing and say that's what you get if you elect a Dane County leftist, right? Even though it's not a thing.
Yeah.
How do you respond to that? Like, how are you going to, are you going to do like Tammy Baldwin did and go directly to camera and say, you know what, Eric Hovde's lying, which worked? Or are you going to let it pass like Harris did or Mandela did with abolishing the police and maybe have less of a positive outcome? I hope it's the former, obviously.
Yeah, I think we're going to call Brad Schimel out for his lies. We have already done that with the attacks that he has lobbed at us that are, just based on lies. They're false. And we'll continue to call that out and continue to show voters who Brad Schimel really is by pointing out his extreme positions, extreme decisions that he has made and agendas that he has pursued during his whole career as a partisan politician and even from the bench. We're not going to let anything go unanswered.
I guess I have another question for you, which is, we're seeing a lot of erosion. What you don't know about me is I spent a lot of time working around the world on democracy, but in some cases, projects funded by USAID, places like Russia and Belarus and pretty much all kinds of places. Talk a little bit about what you're seeing as the erosion of the rule of law. I mean, what Brad Schimel is saying, if you take it to the ultimate extreme, with the January 6th people, if I decide to go to Lambeau Field and don't have a ticket and want to storm the gate, I should be pardoned if I get arrested for it because, well, I was a tourist.
Yeah, that seems to be a great example of where Brad Schimel is willing to let people who commit violent crimes, who harm other people, even who hurt police officers, a free pass based on a kind of a political lens and a political reading of that situation. If it fits his extreme politics, he's willing to give people a pass. And we've seen him even on the campaign trail, unable to follow the basic rules that apply to campaigning, like altering a digital image of me in one of his attack ads, using what is clearly artificial intelligence to do that. And that's against state law, and he should be fined for it. And there's a complaint filed against his campaign for that. He's also been open about the fact that he is directly soliciting contributions from, people all over the country, from conservatives and billionaires all over the country. As a judge, you cannot do that under our judicial code. So even as a candidate, Brad Schimel can't follow the rules.
Judge Susan Crawford, quickly, if people want to learn more about your campaign, where can they go?
They can take a look at our website at crawfordforwisconsin.com. That's Crawford,
right.
FORWI.com. That's a great place to look. We're also on all of the social media, and I encourage people to follow us there.
All right. Thank you so much, Judge Crawford. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.